Hi, English 9. Welcome to our last 4 weeks of the school year, if you can believe it. We've wrapped up our Into Thin Air unit. Even though we weren't in class together, I still really enjoyed the discussions that I got to have with so many of you over Zoom. I loved seeing your annotations on Flipgrid. I was so impressed by the creativity in your character maps, and I look forward to reading and grading your Into Thin Air unit assessments. For the next 4 weeks, we're going to do a mini research project, and we're going to be looking at the ways that teens can use their special skills to advocate for change in their community. So we'll start this week by looking at 2 different articles, and after reading, annotating the articles, and answering some questions, we'll have a discussion on Friday. Next week, I'll show you how to use some of the tools that our EC library has to research sources, and you'll practice finding some articles of your own to help us answer a research question. And then finally, we'll wrap up by learning how to put them into a website called Noodle Tools, which will help us make MLA citations and to evaluate the sources. If you are coming from EC Middle School and you've used Noodle Tools before and you hated it, don't worry, it's going to be a lot easier, and most students find that they end up liking how to use it because it's a lot easier to use than trying to make your own citation, and it's accurate, whereas websites like EasyBib are not. So I'm really looking forward to this last unit together. I wish it could be Romeo and Juliet, but it doesn't make sense for us to do that when we're not all together.
All right, here's our introduction to our last unit of the year, and we're going to be doing a little mini research project for our final 4 weeks of the school year. So our essential question that we'll be exploring is this idea. Some people consider minors to be politically powerless because they cannot vote. How are young people using other avenues to advance social causes? So this question will guide us through our research, and throughout this unit you'll learn how to research sources, to answer a question using our EC Library databases, how to check sources during research to make sure they're appropriate to use, how to cite your sources using MLA format, and finally how to summarize and evaluate those sources in an annotated bibliography. So the first step for the project is to read teacher models. We, the Honors English 9 and English 9 teachers, have picked out some articles that we think will work as great resources. So this week we're going to be reading and annotating those and then answering questions. On Friday, you'll be doing a small group Zoom discussion to share your ideas with your classmates. Next week, we'll be doing some teacher modeled research. So we'll show you how to use the EC Library databases, how to use Noodle Tools, and how to write an annotation for a source. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Then you'll do your own research to help you find sources that could help you answer our essential question. You'll check each source to make sure that it is trustworthy, so it's a good one to use. And finally, you'll put all of your research together in what's called an annotated bibliography using the website Noodle Tools. And all of that will be due on Friday, June 5th on Turnitin.com. So the most important concept to understand for this unit, otherwise it's going to be super confusing, is that in English there are 2 different times that we use the word annotate or annotations. This year, for the most part, we've been using annotations, meaning writing questions and comments on the page of whatever you're reading. So like what I've asked you to do for Kindred, or what I've asked you to do for Into Thin Air or Lord of the Flies. Here's an example from Lord of the Flies where I write down my prediction or my chapter summary. I am going to be asking you to annotate the articles that we're reading, but I'm also going to be asking you to do something called an annotated bibliography. And in that case, annotate doesn't mean that you write on the margins of your bibliography or your works cited page. It means that you write a paragraph that summarizes why this source is a good one to use. So it would look like you have your MLA citation, and then you have an annotation, which is the paragraph explaining why you chose this source and how it's relevant and how it's trustworthy to use. So I want to make sure that's clear now when we start, because when I say annotated bibliography, I want you to know that I mean a bibliography that has a paragraph underneath each source. So this week we're going to read an article called From Parkland to Sunrise. I'm going to ask you to continue practicing annotating the text the way that we have all year. For each page of the article, I'm going to ask you to write 2 annotations. There are 4 pages, so that's a total of 8. And you can do any combination of the annotation types that we've been doing all year: definition, summary, question, connection, prediction, inference. The article today was published in the New Yorker. It's called From Parkland to Sunrise, A Year of Extraordinary Youth Activism. And the article talks about how teens have become more involved and worked as activists in their communities, starting with the shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland on February 14th, 2018. So you might remember this shooting. It was one of the worst school shootings in recent history, and out of it came the idea of March for Our Lives, students protesting that they shouldn't have to go to school when there's a potential for them to be victims of gun violence. And then the article also talks about the Sunrise Movement, which is a teen movement that helped to get some younger members of Congress elected in the 2018 midterm elections. And they're primarily focused on working for climate change and the idea of the Green New Deal, which would be a way to work to solve climate change, but also strengthen the economy by giving jobs to people in new industries. So I hope you enjoy reading this article. I definitely did. I'm excited to read your questions and responses to it, and then also to hear your discussions on Friday. Have an awesome Monday or Tuesday.